In the past, I've talked about how Atari was pretty foundational to my gaming history. My family had a Pong machine way back in the day, back in the dark old days of the 1970s. We also had an Atari 2600, but after that, we never really continued on with the platform. We never had a 5200. We definitely never had a 7800. I went from the 2600 to the NES, and I never really looked back. Now, as I've gotten older, there are games I've wanted to go back and play on the 2600, and there just haven't been as many great ways to do that as like with the NES, the Genesis, the Super NES, and so on. Now, there have been a number of clone type systems out there that honestly have left a lot to be desired. I'm looking at you, Retron77. That being said, Atari in 2023 announced themselves that they were going to be coming up with a new old Atari 2600. And not only was it going to be a 2600, it was going to be a 2600. This is the Atari 2600 Plus, and as you can tell, it's got that beautiful wood grain finish, it's got the joystick, it's got the look and feel of the original, but there's a few exciting things under the hood here. First and foremost, HDMI output, so you don't have to worry about converting from RF with the spade lug adapter thing to the back of your modern flat panel TV. So this is going to give you much better visuals. This also has the capability of playing Atari 7800 games, something I have never done. I only have one now. I think it's Galaxian. Not that one. That's actually playing through my Switch right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this out of the box, we're going to see how it comes out of the box, and we're going to run it through its paces. I'm also going to show you how you can go ahead and clean those really old, really hard to access Atari 2600 cartridges. Let's go get started. So here you can see we do have the Atari 2600 Plus box on the bench. It does come with a 10 game in one multi-cart. The overall look and everything, like, I don't remember what the original looked like, to be honest with you. I was 2 when this originally came out. Well, at least the original Atari 2600. Basically just have the 2600 colors on top, just the logo on that side, same thing on there with the colors, logo on that side, but on the back. So walks us through the 10 games on the cartridge. So we have Adventure, Combat, played a ton of Combat with my brother Scott, miss you brother, Dodge 'em, Haunted House, Maze Craze, Missile Command, Real Sports Volleyball, Surround, Video Pinball, and Yar's Revenge. I will say the only ones on here I've really played, I've played Yar's Revenge, and I've played Missile Command. The others will be all new to me. Now, in the box itself, we will get the Atari 2600 Plus game system, a CX40 joystick. I never knew that had a name, CX40. 10 game in one cartridge, 1.5 meter HDMI cable, and a 1.5 meter USB power cable. So let us grab our handy dandy X-Acto knife. We'll cut this open and see how it comes out of the box. Man, if this doesn't bring back some memories. I like this to help protect the top of that in the box and everything. So this definitely looks familiar. Now, if they wouldn't have said that it was 80% of the original size, I don't know that I would have necessarily noticed, but it is definitely lighter than the original. And then we do have an instruction sheet in here. This has probably got our controller in it. Oh, also has our multi-cart up top there too. There is the joystick controller. And in here probably our cables. If you hear me sniffling a little bit, I'm having some allergy issues today, so I apologize for that. I will try to not have that be an issue. So we have our USB cable and HDMI. Not worried about the HDMI cable, but we are going to look at the USB in a sec. I'll toss these parts back in the box, kind of get this stuff out of the way. All right, so let's take a look here. First and foremost, I want to take a look at the USB cable because I want to see if it's micro USB or USB-C. It is USB-C. Thank you, Atari, for that. I appreciate that. Now, for the 10 games in one, you got to keep this. I'll tell you that right now, because there's dip switches on the back, and depending on the position, it will determine what game that you are playing. So, all up is Adventure. Number 1 down is Combat. 2 down is Dodge 'em. 1 and 2 is Haunted House. Maze Craze is 3 down. 1 and 3 is Missile Command. It just... Could they not do a menu system? I don't know, but interesting to see. Oh, it has the dip switch position on the label here. That's nice to see. All right, so then you'll want to keep this, just to kind of keep this protect. Taking a look at the joystick here now. Yeah, this feels familiar. Definitely played a few games on one of these over the years. Feels firm though, I'll say that much. Yeah, we'll have to see how it plays. Now, taking a look at the system itself, this does have the standard 4-switch configuration, so power up and down is right here, color black and white. You have your main connector here for the cartridges, game select, game reset. On the back here, you do have, I mean, this is pretty accurate to what the real thing was. You have 16 by 9, 4 by 3 right here. We're gonna go right to 4 by 3. Difficulty AB, right controller. HDMI output, difficulty AB, left controller, and power. Anything on the bottom? Nothing really on the bottom, so very simple. Pretty lightweight, I will say now. So unlike the NES and the Super NES, the Atari 2600, just generally the games work. Although there's no proper way to clean games that have this little door on it. At least there hasn't been until now. And I'm proud to have a little bit to do with this, not a whole lot, but this is the 1UP cleaning card cartridge key for the Atari 2600. And what it does is these two little tabs fit right into the tabs on the bottom here. You just go ahead, line everything up, push it into place, and now you have access to go ahead and clean the pins on the bottom. And for that, the 1UP card minis work fantastically for that. All that you do with this is, and I don't know the last time I cleaned this copy of Pac-Man, put a little bit of cleaning fluid on the fluid side, put it in the bottom, run it back and forth, flip it over, get that side there, and then go ahead and use the dry side, and dry side, and then you can go ahead and just pop this guy right off, and your cartridge is clean. The nice thing too is this is available with a cleaning kit that includes a 4-pack of the 1UP mini cards, some isopropyl alcohol, and even the system cleaner if you want to maintain the pins on your system. So very cool. Really, really love the fact that we've got this now. And when I say we, I work for 1UP Cards. So there is that, just throwing that out there. Now that we have Pac-Man clean, one of the things I do want to check is just the fitment of the cartridge in here. That's pretty good. Now, what about something like one of the Parker Brothers games? Like here's Return of the Jedi Star Battle, or Death Star Battle. Yeah, I would say not a death grip at all, so that's good to see. Now, one final thing, and kind of what makes the Atari 2600 Plus a plus, is the fact that not only is it compatible with 2600 cartridges, but 7800 cartridges as well. And I had never seen one until recently. They're basically the same size and everything. The main difference, very similar to like the Super NES games, where some of them had just the main board and some had the board with the two little sub boards on either side. That's what the 7800 has, and that's where you can actually see this actually has 2 ports there and there to accept these pins. So this is Galaga. Yeah, I would say, I mean, tight-ish fit, but not a death grip. And I'll admit, I've never played a 7800 game. This is the first one I've ever bought. So let's go ahead. We're going to test this. We're going to test some other games just to see how does this play. All right, so I've got everything connected here. We are going to put in the 10 games in one with the default setting, which should get us Adventure. I will admit, not a huge fan of Adventure. I never really was. So one of the things with this system is the fact that it doesn't play the cartridges locally, and by that I mean it does actually basically dump the ROM of the cartridge into local onboard memory. Very similar to like the Retron 77. But this looks a whole lot better. So I think I have to hit the reset to start the game. Yep. Now, the one thing with Adventure is there's not a ton of sound effects. There's the Dragoon. Now, I do remember playing this as a kid, but I don't remember getting very far. So I think that... No, that does not unlock that one. Which castle? Well, this is a game, like I said, I've just never been the biggest fan of. It does work, so we're going to show... Oh, one thing I want to show you real quick is I've dropped the key. When I flip it from black and white, or from color to black and white, that's basically what it does. I played a ton of this on a 13-inch TV that I won through Scouts. So we're going to power that off. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going through these games, just because, like I say, there's not a ton that I'm interested in, although we are going to fire up some Combat. That is one that my brother Scott and I used to play a ton when I was younger. So here we have Combat, and we're going to scroll through here so we can see the different games. So there's Tank Battle. There's another Tank Battle. There's 3 Tank Battle, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, where you're both invisible, 11, 12. Thought there's the airplanes. That's the one I was looking for. Ooh, the Jets. Benny and the Jets. We're going to start this one. Got him. Got him again. These tank controls are terrible for airplanes. All right. So there's the multi-cart. It works. We're going to move on to our next game. So up next, this is Star Wars Return of the Jedi Death Star Battle. And the interesting thing about this game is that it did not work on the Retron 77. I haven't touched it since, so let's see if this actually... It plays? Score! Oh no, it blowed up, sir. All right, can I get up there? There we go. Oh, blowed up again, sir. Got the Lambda shuttle that time. Oh, okay. This is what I wanted to see. It works. Did not work on the Retron 77. Good to know. And I suck at it. If there's one game I probably played more than any other back in the day on my Atari 2600, it's this here, the original Donkey Kong. Let's go ahead. Let's see if we can't beat this silly ape. God, this brings back so many memories. I mean, the sound is like spot on from what I remember back in the day. The controller is definitely stiff, but I think it's pretty accurate, quite honestly. All right, we should be able to rescue Pauline here. Oh, that's one of the things I forgot, too, is that you actually have to hit the start button, or not start button, but the action button on the controller to start the level. All right, so far so good. Oh, you booger. Okay, well, Donkey Kong works. What about Donkey Kong Jr.? And here we have Donkey Kong Jr. Let's see. I still think it's weird that you have to hit the reset button to start the games. So, if you're familiar with The Simpsons at all, there was an episode where Bart and the family were playing Scrabble. And one of the words that Bart came up with was Ouija. And it was basically like a hairless ape description for Homer, really. I forgot how to get over to that. That's what Junior looks like to me, as a Ouija. Man, this game has not aged well. I also always thought Junior looked like Chewbacca a little bit with his sash and stuff. All right, took me 2 tries there, but did get through the first level. DK Jr. works. I can't not play Pac-Man for the 2600. I mean, this game is infamous for how bad it is. But is it really all that bad? It's different. It is different. And when you consider the time that they had to get this done and whatnot. Play more, talk less. Wow, I am suffering. I think part of that is, again, just how stiff that joystick is out of the box. I think it will break in. God, I remember that sound. It's been years since I've heard it. Can I at least get past the first level, please? Nope, I can't. But it works. All right, so next up, this is Galaga, the Atari 7800 edition. And like I say, I've never played any 7800 games before, so I'm really interested to see, does this look that much better? Like, I'm half expecting an NES-like experience, quite honestly. That's a pretty splash screen. Definitely better than the 2600, but definitely sounds better than the 2600 too. I just thought that this was interesting, like an inverse Space Invaders. Oh, you booger, I was there. There we go. I'm having trouble. Got him! Yes! This actually feels slower as well. Got that full flight squadron coming through. I'd like to see, and honestly I don't know because I've just not looked into it that often. Is there a Mario Brothers, not Super Mario Brothers, an original Mario Brothers for the 26 or for the 7800? I guess you get a little bit of a turbo, but not a huge one if you just hold the button down. Got that squad. I mean, so the 7800 does look better than the 2600. Try this now. Next, we're going to try 2 very special things. First and foremost, I have disconnected the stock controller, and we have connected the Hypercan Ranger just to see how this works. It should work. I would assume it would. The other thing is we have a very special homebrew here. This is Game Panic 3 Parcel Success. And our good friend John Hancock is the man behind this. So we're going to check and see how this handles homebrews. And if you are a fan of the 2600 and want a more traditional controller, like, I'm liking this a lot. So one thing, just as a heads up, to make sure that the Ranger works properly, you have to have it in S mode and then in LS. I guess RS would be right stick, so then it would just be like this then. So you hit the button with your left thumb. It's working great. Left thumb. Yeah, all the movements and directions are working exactly as they should. Yeah, I'm definitely liking this controller better than the stock one. Just the stock one, I think, will free up in time, and that's kind of what Atari was banking on. But this, for me, is definitely, like, out of the gate, just better. Perfect. I love to see this, that this is working as it should. This is a different sort of game. Definitely need to spend more time with it. And I do want to thank our good friend Mr. Hancock for sending us one over as thanks for us doing some 3D printer work for him for the pack-in, essentially. So very, very cool. Got that. So now let's try some Night Driver, because this does have the paddle option. This is another game I just played so much of back in the day. I don't know how I'm going to like this out of the box. But we'll see here how this works with the Ranger controller. So, I mean, it does work with the paddle controller on here. For me, the fact that, needless to say, for something like this paddle controller, not quite as good on the Ranger probably as having the actual paddles here, but it does work. You cannot talk about the Atari 2600 without talking about the most nefarious games, infamous games of all time, and that would be E.T. Now, I'll say the audio sounds off just a little bit. So as a kid, I never got the fact. For me, I couldn't extrapolate out the fact that that's E.T.'s whole body. I thought that opening that you see there was actually his mouth. So when you do this, he opens his mouth. Oh, come on. Okay, you suck. I saw the doctor there. And stuff like this is exactly why people hated this game so much. Like, I just changed screens there and he fell down a pit. How is that fair? Yeah, this game is terrible. It has been since the day it came out. But it works. One of the not-so-secret hacks for the original Atari 2600 was the fact that you could actually use a Sega Genesis controller with it. Let's see if that is still the case. This is actually from the JVC XI. No, it is not working. Interesting. Up the stairs. Well, now we do have the Ranger controller going again, and oof, we got hit there. But we're in business now. I will say that it's kind of hard to go up the stairs. So what are my initial thoughts of this? First and foremost, it plays great. It looks great. It sounds great. This is exactly what fans of the 2600 should be looking for. Games compatibility is excellent. The only game I had a minor issue with, and actually I can't say minor, it was a major issue because the game did not play, but I'm not sure if it was the game or the system, and that is my copy of Zaxxon. Did not work. It works beautifully with the 7800 games as advertised. At least with the one single 7800 game that I own, it does work with the Ranger controller from Hyperkin, but it is interesting that it does not work with the Genesis controller since the originals did. So that is really, really perplexing. And just because I know one person will be like, why didn't you show it in widescreen? There's widescreen. There's normal. There you go. So there you have our look at the Atari 2600 Plus. And what do I think about it? Well, if you like the Atari 2600, you're going to love this. If you like the 7800, I think you're going to love this as well. If you don't have a whole lot of nostalgia for the originals, though, I don't know that this is going to do a whole lot for you. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I had a 2600. I don't have the, just the nostalgia for it that I do for the NES. And kind of like I was talking about with E.T. there, where I couldn't imagine or picture back in the day, what I thought was E.T.'s mouth was just the gap between his arms and his head. I was a 5-year-old kid. I just didn't relate to that. I needed something that was more visually accurate, and that's what I got with the NES. That being said, when it comes to accuracy, this thing is damn good. The audio is spot on, the visuals look absolutely perfect. It's a clean video signal out via HDMI to our modern flat panel TV, and with these sorts of games like lag and latency, not going to be the biggest factor in here, but I didn't feel anything. I will say the included controller, the stick definitely was tight, and I think it's one of those things that over time I'm gonna have to break it in just to get the responsiveness that I am looking for. Also, I will say that I don't love the dip switch setup here on the multi-cart, especially when I'm looking at it this way and then, versus what we have up-down positions on the back. So here for combat, the first pin should be down, the rest are up. Well, for that, I have to flip the cartridge upside down. If I just go this way with it, it's not respective of what I'm actually seeing. So when you're looking and trying to match pin position here to switch position here to switch position here, make sure you're looking at it in the right orientation where the numbers are right side up, not upside down. That threw me for a loop for probably 5 or 6 minutes. Like, how the hell, why can I not get combat to work? That's how I was having that issue there. Works with homebrews, works with every cartridge that I threw at it except my copy of Zaxxon, and I honestly don't know if that's a good copy. So it could be that cartridge. I went through and I did clean it, I bright boyed it, didn't make a difference. So I may have to go and open it up and reflow the solder on the pins. But good thing to know too, that Atari 2600 cartridge key, if you do have 2600 games that you need to clean, you can go ahead and pick one of those up. I have a link down below. You can also pick up an Atari 2600 system cleaner. Now, it doesn't do anything to clean the 2 outermost pins on here, but it will clean the main pins for the 2600. So 7800, where those pins go in, doesn't do anything for you on that, but it will clean the 2600 portion of the system. One thing I did not show, but just as a heads up, the Atari logo here, when you do have it powered on, it lights up. There's LEDs behind it, which is a nice touch. I appreciate the fact that they gave you a system, sold you a system that gives you that feeling and nostalgia, the look, the performance of the original. And just sitting here looking at it, like, to me, if I didn't know any better, I'm like, this is just a 2600. I would have to really look at it closely to be like, oh, it's smaller than the original, and then look at it to see things such as the HDMI port versus the RCA jack output on here. The fact it's USB-C, love that. Thank you, Atari, for being forward thinking on that. I know other clone console manufacturers that still use USB Mini, and I am not a fan of that. Love the fact it is USB-C. Now, some may wonder this or the Retron 77. So they both dump the ROM from the cartridge into local onboard memory, like I mentioned. This, to me, had a better, more accurate overall experience. The load times are better. I didn't have the issues with the games with this like I did with the Retron 77. Like I mentioned before, my Return of the Jedi did not work on the Retron 77. It worked on here. So I would say for a little bit more money, I think you get a better, more accurate machine here, where Hyperkin has talked in the past how the Retron 77, they're wanting it to be more community-based, for lack of a better term, where they want the community to work on custom firmware and all this to add features to it. And to me, that just doesn't sit right with me. I want a good finished product. Now, I did think it was interesting that while this did work with the Ranger controller from Hyperkin, it did not work with Sega Genesis controllers, which real hardware, original hardware, will do. I thought that was rather interesting, and I don't know if that's an input, de-input, XM, I don't know. But the way that this is wired and the way that it works, it did not work with my Sega Genesis controller. Did not expect that. Now, if you do want to pick one of these up, I will have a link down below in a pinned post where you can go ahead and do so. They're not super expensive, $130, and there's coupons. I think I got like $10 or $20 off for my first order from Atari.com. So make sure you take advantage of that. I think I just had to sign up for their newsletter, which they've got good stuff and I let people know about. So if you are a fan of the Atari 2600, definitely something you will want to consider, or if you know someone who is a fan of the 2600. It's a damn good little system. Now, if you do want to check out some of the other videos that we've done talking about Atari and Atari products, I'll have that link for you right here where you can check out. I'm sure you'll see something else that you'll like.